Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference for 2021, or WWDC for short, is finally done and dusted. Hours and days of speculation has come down to last night, and I do have a few thoughts on iOS 15, which I happen to get on my iPhone 7. But before we get into iOS 15, I just want to say if you want to learn more about watchOS 8, iPadOS 15, and macOS Monterey, make sure to check out the link down in the description, which goes into detail about some of the features you can expect with all of these software releases. And while you're at it, make sure to comment down below whether or not you liked what you saw at WWDC, or was it a bit underwhelming. I'm definitely in the boat with the latter. I thought it was a bit underwhelming in terms of feature set, and what better way to get into it with iOS 15. Now, to me, iOS 15 just seems like a reskinned version of iOS 14 with some minor changes here and there. There's slight variations in text, the settings application also has a redesign, and the notification panel does look a bit sleeker. But that's really it. If you don't know, iOS 15 has a lot to do with FaceTime updates, and unfortunately in the UAE, FaceTime is unavailable. It's basically regulated, so you can't really access it. So I can't really show you any of the features that FaceTime has in store with iOS 15, but that doesn't mean I can't talk about it. What Apple is trying to do with FaceTime is basically replicate all of the different services you have and put them into one. And now more than ever, this is a requirement. We rely on software to stay in touch with our friends and our family, and with FaceTime and SharePlay in particular, that is exactly what Apple is trying to do. Now you can share your experiences with a FaceTime call, so you can share your screen, share your favorite movie, share your favorite music with your friends and family right from FaceTime. And this is very similar to the concept that I sort of discovered when I was in lockdown, when I could watch a Netflix TV show or a movie with my friends simultaneously at the same time, so we had the same exact reactions to a scene we were watching. So that's pretty neat, but it's restricted only to FaceTime on iOS 15. Within FaceTime, you now get a better audio experience as well, so things like spatial audio. You get a better voice recognition feature where more of the background noise while you're talking is diluted, so you get a clearer voice. And you also get a portrait mode feature, although the portrait mode feature is restricted to iOS devices running the Apple A12 chipset, so the iPhone 7 is definitely not running that, so I will not be seeing that feature on this phone, and neither would any of the owners who have an iPhone 7 would. But I do want to say, I think the live text feature is another one that's sort of limited by the hardware on board the iPhone 7. So what live text is when you're actually taking a photo of something that has text, the camera application will be able to recognize that text and allow you to copy paste, and maybe in the future Spotlight Search would then be able to search for that particular piece of text in that picture. So it's pretty cool to see sort of that recognition technology coming into play, but it doesn't seem to work on the iPhone 7 as well as the demos have shown, and definitely not as well as on the iPhone 12. I saw a video of someone doing it and it worked pretty well, but I couldn't get it to work on the iPhone 7. Now this could be to do with the beta that this phone is running, or it might never come to the iPhone 7. That small diversion aside, we're actually going to go back to FaceTime and talk about one last thing that I want to mention, is that now you can have FaceTime meetings not just with iPhone or Apple device users, but also with Windows users as well as Android phone users. And this is a huge step. You sort of get the same philosophy as what Zoom and Google Meet do with their link. I would love to test that feature out and see how it works with, let's say, an Android phone or a Windows device. But once again, FaceTime is restricted in the UAE. There's absolutely no way to access it. So unfortunately, I cannot. Although looking at my Twitter timeline, I did see a lot of people face issues with this, and that's to be expected because this is a beta at the end of the day, and I'm sure all of these things will be nailed out as we see more beta releases upcoming to the final launch, which is in the fall of this year. iOS 15 also brings some very obvious visual changes. For example, Safari, it gets a huge overhaul and the navigating experience is just way more pleasant now. It's more one-handed friendly, and I know a lot of people are going to appreciate that, especially with how big these Pro Max iPhone models are getting. The weather and the notes application is also prettier looking, and Maps also receives an overhaul, especially to make things more colorful and sort of more realistic. And I think the countries receiving this update, especially for Maps, it's great. But in the UAE, it feels like these features will trail behind at least a couple of years. There's also a new feature where you can add keys as well as your state IDs on Apple Wallet, but I do feel like once again, this is more to cater towards a specific target market and not sort of the worldwide audience. So we're probably never going to be seeing that feature being introduced here in the UAE, but I am keeping my fingers crossed, and we will hopefully get more information as this thing sort of rolls out and becomes a full stable release. There is one big feature that's actually available. It's called Focus, and this basically lets you set profiles on your smartphone depending on what you're working on. This way, you only get notifications from people allowed within that profile, and you can fine-tune it for which applications you can access as well. It's definitely a useful feature for those people who are looking for it, but personally, it's not going to add any more value to my usage experience, but that could just be me. And that's as far as pretty much all of the changes with iOS 15 go. It's definitely a much simpler experience on a phone like the iPhone 7. And to be honest, it's not a major overhaul. So iOS 14 was a huge departure from the previous versions of iOS, but iOS 15 just seems like a very bog standard, basic, incremental update in my opinion. Look, this isn't to discount Apple's ridiculous software support. I mean, iOS 15 on the iPhone 7 is a huge achievement, but this does come with battery drain issues, and you sort of start to feel it overheat towards the top end of the smartphone, especially when you're using maps. But that's about it for my impressions. I feel like iOS 15 has a lot to be desired. They could have, looked at native multitasking support. I think that's a big one. With the iPhone displays getting so much bigger, that could have been something that would have sort of revolutionized the whole multitasking concept, but maybe we'll just have to wait another year for Apple to fix that. So thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. This was Vaibhav. Take care and adios.